Welcome back to another gripping episode of No Tears for Black Girls. I'm your host, Samantha Paul, and today we'll delve into the sensational and tragic story of Linda Stein, a prominent New York real estate mogul with deep ties to the music industry. Known for her dynamic personality and elite connections, Linda's life was a whirlwind of glamour and challenges, including battles with cancer and addiction. In 2007, her life came to a horrifying end when she was found brutally murdered in her Fifth Avenue penthouse. The prime suspect? Her 26-year-old personal assistant, Natavia Lowery. What followed was a complex and controversial investigation, producing allegations of embezzlement, coerced confessions, and claims of workplace abuse. Join me as we unravel the intricate details of the case, scrutinize the evidence, and question the motives behind this devastating crime. This is the story of Linda Stein and Natavia Lowery, an episode filled with mystery, drama, and heartbreaking consequences. Let's dive in. In the pulsating heart of New York City, skyscrapers tore at the clouds, and the unrelenting thrum of existence reverberated in every crevice. Linda Stein ruled over this domain with a sharp tongue and an unwavering determination. The frenzied pulse of Manhattan's elite society served as the backdrop to her opulent lifestyle, a whirlwind of sparkling soirees and secretive rendezvous with A-listers like Elton John and Whoopi Goldberg. As she navigated this world, her presence was as vibrant as a live wire, drawing in Seymour Stein, the legendary music industry giant who became entangled in her orbit. The echoes of punk anthems by the Ramones, a band they managed together, resounded through their shared history. Even after their divorce was finalized, an unbreakable bond tethered them together, symbolized by their two daughters and a legacy steeped in music and real estate. But Linda's life was not without its struggles. She battled breast cancer and turned to self-medication as a coping mechanism, developing dependencies on marijuana and alcohol. In 2007, at 62 years old, she faced yet another challenge, an inoperable brain tumor that caused drastic changes in her behavior. Despite these obstacles, Linda fought on with determination and optimism until her passing. The news of the New York icon's gruesome death did not shock acquaintances. Linda was known for ruffling feathers, and it seemed she had finally crossed paths with a fatal adversary. Mandy, who resided in sunny Los Angeles, had been on a brief visit to her mother's luxurious penthouse on Fifth Avenue. Upon returning from an evening out, Mandy made a chilling discovery, her mother lying lifeless on the living room floor. Panic-stricken, she frantically called 911 while pleading for help from anyone in the building. In her state of distress, Mandy had to pass off the phone during the call. Linda was found with a hoodie covering her head, drenched in blood. The coroner determined that she had sustained over 20 blows to the head from a blunt metal object, resulting in 5 lacerations. Adding to the tragedy, Linda's years-long battle with cancer and recent medication use had left her frail and vulnerable. There were no signs of struggle or self-defense on her hands. The exact time of death could not be determined, but investigators estimated that it occurred hours before Mandy's return home. While a possible entry point was discovered through an unlocked side door, surveillance footage pointed to one individual with access to Linda's home on that fateful day, 26-year-old Natavia Lowery. Like Linda, Natavia also had aspirations of success, but took a different path, starting as a temp employee after dropping out of college. The year was 2007, and Natavia had been placed in the challenging role of personal assistant to Linda Stein by her agency. It was a tumultuous few months for Natavia, as Linda's demanding nature was not easily satisfied. Her previous assistant had been unceremoniously fired, fueling rumors of a payment dispute or a sour relationship. Despite the difficulties, Natavia showed promise in her role. She received compliments from Linda herself, but also experienced uncomfortable moments while carrying out her tasks. She was expected to run personal errands, accompany Linda on walks through Central Park, and navigate her unpredictable mood swings. On the 30th at 11:56 a.m., Natavia was seen entering the building with a large manila envelope. She passed construction workers inside and waited to enter the living room where Linda was located. Unfortunately, this area was not under surveillance. The footage reveals that Natavia spent over an hour with Linda before leaving at 1:19 p.m. The timing of Natavia's visit raised suspicion, especially when she exited the building carrying two bags, one red and one green. Upon closer examination of the footage, investigators noticed that the red bag seemed heavy, as if it contained a weighty object from within the building. The murder weapon, believed to be a blunt metal object, was never found by authorities. Equally puzzling was the state of Natavia's trousers. While entering the building at noon, her cargo pants had visible pockets. However, as she left, they appeared to be inside out. Could this have been an attempt to conceal any potential blood spatter on her clothing? Despite the chaotic crime scene, there is no evidence of blood on Natavia in the footage. Could she have been successful in hiding any stains by turning her trousers inside out? This lack of physical evidence on their prime suspect, despite significant evidence at the crime scene, was just one inconsistency among many. Linda's daughter, Samantha, initially told authorities that she had last spoken to her mother at 2 p.m. on the day of her death. This called into question the timeline presented by the surveillance footage, which showed Natavia leaving well before that time. Hours after Natavia's departure, she dutifully carried out Linda's mundane tasks while fielding calls from clients and family members. One call in particular caught her attention, from her ex-husband Seymour. She also managed to squeeze in a lunch date with a friend before leaving a message for Linda. Like everyone else close to Linda, Natavia immediately contacted the police upon learning of her murder. But as more information came to light and surveillance footage was analyzed, detectives became increasingly suspicious of the assistant. They finally had their chance to interrogate her when Natavia called to report pesky reporters camped outside her home. Reluctantly, she was escorted to the police department, where Detective Antonio Rivera and his partner eagerly began questioning her. At first, Natavia stuck to her story, a regular workday that ended with a grisly discovery. But under intense pressure from the detectives, she eventually cracked. Her seemingly innocent facade began to crumble as they uncovered her past criminal activities, using a friend's identity for personal gain and siphoning thousands of dollars from Linda's accounts during her short time working for the realtor. It seemed possible that Natavia was caught red-handed by Linda and things turned violent, or perhaps she had planned the attack to prevent getting caught for embezzlement. Initially, Natavia claimed that a masked man entered Linda's apartment while she was there and killed her, but as investigators pushed for more details, her story grew more improbable. Of course, this all unfolded during an unrecorded interrogation. However, once it seemed like a confession might be on the horizon, everything changed. After 12 hours of grueling questioning, Natavia began to describe how Linda had been behaving on the day of the murder. Angry, cursing, and wielding what she called a yoga stick. She went on to detail how Linda constantly berated and belittled her, even blowing marijuana smoke in her face and hurling racial slurs. Natavia reached her breaking point upon hearing this comment. It was the final straw, the tipping point that pushed her over the edge. She couldn't take it anymore. Linda's constant mistreatment of her assistant was too much. Mattia claimed to have no recollection of her actions due to a blackout triggered by Linda's relentless verbal abuse and denial of breaks. Yet Natavia also mentioned that their previous working relationship had been positive. But now, she confided in her interrogators that Linda was regularly inappropriate and even used racist language at times. This statement would later be fiercely contested by those who knew Linda well. Regardless, Natavia Lowery was arrested and charged with Linda Stein's murder. She pleaded not guilty and eventually recanted her confession, revealing that she had been coerced by the detectives who refused to let her speak to her lawyer or mother. According to Natavia's aunt, Julia Caro, they even lied about contacting her lawyer. Her defense argued that the statements were forced out of desperation for an escape from the interrogation room. However, physical evidence corroborated Natavia's confession that Linda died from a blow to the head. The rest of Natavia's details were more uncertain, especially since there was no trace of DNA on her clothing or in her home. The supposed murder weapon, a yoga stick, was never found, and its definition was unclear as well. Some speculated it may have been a Pilates bar or something else entirely. Linda's own private yoga instructor attested to never having heard of a yoga stick and confirmed that Linda only had small dumbbells for exercise equipment in her expensive apartment. As Natavia's trial loomed closer, questions arose about the weapon used for the murder. The NYPD clarified that they never explicitly stated it was a yoga stick, but rather, Natavia told them it was during her confession, yet it could have been something else entirely. Another point of contention was Natavia's claim that Linda had made racist remarks towards her, which many close to Linda vehemently denied, citing her illness and medications as a possible cause for erratic behavior. And they also didn't believe Natavia's allegation that Linda blew marijuana smoke in her face. It seemed like a desperate attempt to pin the blame on her boss. Linda's friends praised her for her discreetness when it came to smoking. She always made sure to leave the room or open a window, never wanting to impose on others with her habit. And their claims were proven correct by the autopsy report, which showed no trace of marijuana in her system. It was impossible for Natavia to have caught a whiff of it that afternoon. But despite this vindication, the assistant's account of the attack seemed to downplay the severity. Linda had been struck far more than just 6 times. If Natavia truly acted out of provocation, it certainly didn't happen in the way she claimed. During the trial, Natavia also faced charges of theft for embezzling money from her boss over several months. And with no real defense, this only added to her motive for murder. Her new lawyer, Ron Kuby, argued that her confession was coerced by police and should not be taken as truth. He even suggested that Linda's own daughter, Mandy, may have had a financial motive to kill her mother. Their relationship was strained, and Mandy was financially dependent on Linda. The absence of the murder weapon also raised doubts, especially since there was no such thing as a yoga stick, as described by the prosecution. Yet despite these doubts, Natavia Lowery was convicted of second-degree murder and received a 27-year to life sentence. She maintains her innocence and is currently incarcerated at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. But throughout the media frenzy surrounding this case, one thing remained clear. Linda Stein was beloved by many. Even celebrities like Sir Elton John and Madonna mourned her passing with statements of grief. And those who knew her will always remember her as a vibrant force of nature with an insatiable love for life and music. Thank you for tuning in to No Tears for Black Girls. This series is skillfully crafted by acclaimed writer and producer John Reedberg with the guidance of unapologetic host Samantha Paul. Catch new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday on all major podcast platforms. You can listen anywhere, anytime. And if you truly enjoy our content, please leave a 5-star rating and positive review. Remember to stay loved, stay blessed, and stay safe.